Good evening. Ashan here, and I'm going to be reading again from this book, The World's 16 Crucified Saviors, or Christianity Before Christ by Clergy Graves. And I'm going to be finishing up where I left off at, the address to the clergy. And this is Clergy Graves addressing the Catholic Church, as I stated, or the Jesuit order. So here we go. We will here briefly state why all the ancient religions were alike. Two causes are obviously assignable for Christianity in all its essential features and phases, being so strikingly similar to the ancient pagan systems which preceded it, as also the close analogies of all the principal systems whose doctrines and practical teachings have found a place on the pages of history. 1. The primary and constituent elements and properties of human nature being essentially the same in all countries and all centuries, and the feeling called religion being a spontaneous outgrowth of the devotional elements of the human mind. The coincidence would naturally produce similar feelings, similar thoughts, similar views, and similar doctrines on the subject of religion in different countries, however widely separated. This accounts in part for the analogous features observable in all the primary systems of religious faith, which have flourished in the past ages. 2. A more potent cause, however, for the proximate identity extending to such an elaborate detail as is evinced by the foregoing schedule is found in the historical incident which brought the disciples of the various systems of worship together, face to face, in the then grand religious emporium of the world, the royal and renowned city of Alexandria, the capital of Egypt. Here, drawn together by various motives and influences, the devotee of India, the devout disciple of Buddhism, the ever-prayerful worshipper of Mithra, the mediator, the representatives of the crucified Quetzal cult of Mexico, the self-denying Essene, the superstitious Egyptian, the godly Chaldean, the imitative Judean founders of Christianity, and the disciples of other sin-atoning gods, met and interchanged ideas, discussed their various dogmas, remoted their doctrines, and recast and rehabilitated their systems of religious faith by borrowing from each other and from other systems there represented. In this way, all became remarkably similar and alike in all their doctrines and details, and thus the mystery is solved, and the singular resemblance of all the ancient systems of religion satisfactorily accounted for. In conclusion, please note the following points. 1. The religious conceptions of the Old Testament are as easily traced to the heathen sources as those of the New Testament, but we are compelled to exclude such an exposition from this work. 2. The comparative exposition of the doctrines and teachings of 20 Bibles, which proves them to be in their leading features essentially alike, originally designed for this volume, is found to be, when completed, of sufficient magnitude to constitute a volume of itself. 3. Here I desire to impress upon the minds of my clerical brethren the important fact that the gospel histories of Christ were written by men who had formerly been Jews, see Acts 21:20, and probably possessing the strong proclivity to imitate and borrow which their Bible shows was characteristic of that nation, and being written many years after Christ's death, according to that standard Christian author, Dr. Lardner. It was impossible under such circumstances for them to separate, if they had desired to, the real facts and events of his life from the innumerable fictions and fables then afloat everywhere relative to the heathen gods who had pre-enacted a similar history. Two reasons are thus furnished for their constructing a history of Christ almost identical with that of other gods, as shown in chapters 30, 31, and 32 of this work. 4. The singular and senseless defense of your now tottering system we have known to be attempted by members of your order by the self-complacent soliloquy, Christianity, whether divine or human, is good enough for me. But such a subterfuge betrays both a weak mind and a weak cause. The disciples of all the Oriental systems cherished a similar feeling and a similar sentiment. And the deluded followers of Brigham Young exclaimed in like manner, I want nothing better than Mormonism. Snakes, lizards, and frogs are good enough for me. A South Sea Islander once exclaimed to a missionary when a reform diet was proposed. Such logic, if universally adopted, would keep the world eternally in barbarism. No progress can be made where such sentiments prevail. The truth is, no system of religion, whatever its ostensible marks of perfection, can long remain good enough for aspiring and progressive minds, unless occasionally improved, like other institutions. And then it should be borne in mind that our controversy does not appertain so much to the character as to the origin of the Christian religion. Are many incontrovertible proofs that it is of human and heathen origin, proves at the same time that it is an imperfect system, and as such needing occasional improvement, like other institutions. And its assumed perfection and divine origin, which have always guarded it from improvement, amply accounts for its present corrupt, immoral, declining, and dying condition. And it will ere long die with paralysis unless its assumption of divine perfection is soon exchanged for the principles of improvement and reconstruction. This policy alone can save it. 5. We will here notice another feeble, futile, foolish expedient we have known resorted to by persons of your order to save your sinking cause when the evidence is presented with such cogency as to admit of no disproof that all the important doctrines of Christianity were taught by older heathen systems before the era of Christ. The plea is that those systems were mere types or antitypes of the Christian religion, but this plea is of itself a borrowed subterfuge of heathenism and is moreover devoid of evidence. The ancient Egyptians, also the Greeks, claimed that Brahmanism was a type or antitype of their religious systems. And Mohammedans now claim that both Judaism and Christianity were designed by God as foreshadowing types of religion of the Quran. And the disciples of more than 1,000 systems of religion which have flourished in past ages could have made such logic equally available in showing In each case, that every system preceding theirs was designed by infinite wisdom as simply a typical or antitypical forerunner of theirs. How ridiculous and senseless, therefore, is the argument thus shown to be when critically examined in the light of history, so much so as scarcely to merit a serious notice. 6. Here permit us to say that we believe Christianity to be not only of human origin, but of natural origin also. That is, a natural outgrowth, like other systems, of the religious elements of the human mind. A hypothesis which accounts most beautifully for the numerous human imperfections now visible in nearly every line of its teachings. Those imperfections correspond exactly to the imperfect minds which produced it. 7. And we believe that the principal teacher of Christianity, the man Christ Jesus, possessed a very exalted and superior mind for that age in the moral and religious departments, as in the intellectual to some extent also, but his superiority in these respects was not probably greater than that of Zara Colburn or Henry Safford in the mathematical department. And all probably derived their peculiar extraordinary traits of mind from the same causes that of strong psychological influence impressed upon the mind of the mothers prior to their births. Had these antenatal influences been as well understood then as now, we presume Christ would have escaped the fate of an exaltation to the Godhead. 8. In conclusion, permit us to say that the numerous and overwhelming facts of this work render it utterly impossible that the exalted claims you put forth for your religion and its assumed author, that of a divine character, can be true. And posterity will so decide whether you do or not, cherishing for you naught but feelings of kindness and brotherly love, and desiring to promote the truth. We will answer any question or discuss any proposition embraced in this work you may desire. Your brother, Clergy Graves.